Today I'm going to make some gallows for my Dead Man's Hand town, and I've used a Desperado figure from Great Escape Games for scale, and I've taken a few reference pictures from online from different gallows that I've seen in the Western scenario. Now all I've got here is scraps of wood that I've used for previous builds, some cute squared balsa, all balsa wood, apart from this, which I think is a bit of plywood, thin strips of balsa again, and they'll be used for planks and strengthening the beams. And I've got some flimsy balsa here, which may be used. It's quite a thick material, so in scale it's yeah, probably about the right thickness for a plank. So yeah, I shall probably use this, and let's see how it goes. So the first thing is a scale of the height of the model of the gallows. So I'm going to do kind of like maybe 1.5, or maybe just over that. So let's say 1 3/4 height of the figure. The figure's 4, so I'm going to use 7 centimeters. That's going to be the height of the actual gallows itself. So when he falls through, he's going to be on the not touching the ground. So for the length and width of the actual gallows itself, I'm going to do 3 deep. So 1, 2, 3. So that's for the man in the middle who's being hung, and then maybe one guy in front and behind fixing the rope. So that's easy. That's the same width as the actual piece of balsa I have. And for length, I'm going to do it so there's 2 men being hung. So 1 there maybe, and 1 there. And therefore, let's do it slightly wider for people looking around, standing around. So let's mark it there. Set square. Assuming this plank of wood is square, it should be. I just don't think I've ever used it before, so it should be okay. There's the line, and that's where I'm going to cut. For the cut, I'm going to use a set square along the piece of wood, piece of balsa, and the scalpel or modelling knife. Just cut across the edges. There is another way you can actually just indent it instead of scraping through, but you're going to file it down anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. There you go. Here's the base. It's going to need a bit of filing, and then that's what's going to be used as the base for the gallows. Now, for the bases, it looks flat, not planked, so there's either 2 ways of doing this. You can either just use the back of your scalpel or modelling knife and put indentations in to make the marks for planks, which is quite easy to do with balsa, or alternatively you can use strips of other balsa and put them on, glue them onto the base accordingly to make those planks. Now this wood is slightly wide, so it's a wide plank. Now beggars can't be choosers. This is what I've got in my stock. This is what I'm going to use. You could strip it and cut it down lengthways and make it a thinner plank, but for easy and a lot less hassle, I'm just going to keep it the same. So they'll go on there like that, and that'll make more planks, and it will also strengthen the base, which is a bit flimsy because it is only balsa. Now this is 2.5mm thick balsa, so it is a bit flimsy. Okay, unfortunately I only had a certain amount of these strips of wood for planks, so I've had to thin down the base a little bit, but to be honest it doesn't matter. There's the 2 that let's say are going to be hung, and you can still get 3 or 4 different people on, so it's not a big deal that I couldn't make it wider. I've got the base, and now I need to put some square slots in where the unfortunate character is going to be hung and drops down the base. So I've just marked a couple of figures on the base. I know these are round, but we're going to put square drop holes, just giving the marker of the size, that's all. So as you can see, there's the marks of where the unfortunate villain is going to drop through. So we just need to square those up with the set square, and we can cut them out. Okay, so there's the 2 holes cut out. Now I suggest when you do cut balsa, obviously against the grain, with the grain it's quite easy, it just smoothly goes through the knife. But when you do it against the grain, it just kind of crushes the wood, which makes it worse to cut. So I would suggest doing light strokes, and eventually you will get through to the bottom of it. And the lighter strokes they are, the less dense and uneven cut you get. So keep these, because that's also going to have the planks on them as well. And this is where we're going to put the planks on. Now, one thing I've learned already very quickly is measure the holes beforehand. And the reason for that, what I'm saying is, I've had to cut out a very flimsy section to fit the rest of the holes, as opposed to having 3 pure planks. I've had to cut out a section so it fits. I mean, it does fit perfectly, but balsa being very flimsy wood, it's going to make sure that doesn't break. And if I made them slightly bigger, then I would have had to cut 3 sections like I have on the others, and it would have been a lot easier. But so bear that in mind. Okay, so there's the base, which is just drying. So I've cut out the holes for the where they're going to fall through, and they'll just fit in there. And I'm going to square this up a bit. Following on from that, I'm going to make the legs to the base, which again was going to be the 7 centimeters that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so far we have the base, we have the trapdoors which come out, and we have the legs for where they will stand. There'll be 3 at the front and 3 at the back, and that'll be plenty stable enough. Okay, so what I've done, I've reduced the legs length because it looked too high when I put them in. As long as it's high enough for a man to go underneath, that's what I want. But it was too high, it was up here, so way too high. Virtually the size of a single-story building, which I didn't really want. What I'm doing now is just squaring up the base a little bit. Now all I'm doing is filing along smoothly with a metal file, just to square it up a bit. There we have it, not perfect, but a little bit straighter than it was. Not so many rough edges. All I'm going to do now is turn the base upside down, which I've done, and then put on the pillars, or the wooden posts, whatever you want to call them, with PVA glue, and then just make sure they're right angles to the base. While we're waiting for that base and the legs to dry, put a bit of weight on it, as you can see, because the base was bowing a bit, because it was obviously the balsa is very flimsy and quite thin. So what I'm doing, I've got this had this kind of template or sprue left over from wooden beams that was for a different model. So what I've done, I've cut it, and I'm going to put some railings on the base, and I'm going to do 3 railings at the back, and then for the back, and then 2 railings at the front. Now only 2 at the front, because you want the bystanders watching the hanging to see the victim being hung. So you don't want a huge barrier that they won't be able to see him, or them, should I say. So yeah, 2 at the front, 3 at the back, and then maybe 1 on the side, which I don't think I'll have. Yeah, maybe have 1 on the side, and then 1 gap, which won't have a fence on, where the ladders will be. So all I've done is cut these to the length of the base, same for the 2. I just need to fill in another little post there, which I'll probably use a little post of balsa to put on the other side, and maybe 1 in the middle to strengthen it up, and the same for the treble one as well. Okay, so I've glued the railings to the base, and I've also cut some beams, the uprights and the horizontal for the actual hanging, just to make sure that they're the right height. I put a man there, figure, to make sure that the rope will be able to go around his neck. So I'll just let all that dry. I've used PVA and a bit of super glue on this bit because it could be a bit fragile. And I'll just wait for that to dry until I go on to the next bit, which will be strengthening beams for the legs up to the base. Okay, because the legs were a bit flimsy and they were bending slightly, as you can see there, the angle was not exactly 90 degrees. I've put it on a balsa base just to make it a bit more stable and easy to pick up. Still going to be light, but it doesn't feel as flimsy. So there's the Gallows to date. And then what's going to happen is I found an old complementary ladders, which I thought I'd use. Now, sod's law, they don't go as high as the Gallows itself, so I'm going to use one of Great Escape Games steps and put the ladders on the end of it, so it goes to the top, and they can go up from there. I may need to increase the height slightly, but not much. Then after that it'll all be on to the painting stage before I start putting the ropes around the beam. So I've glued the steps and the ladder to the steps and the steps to the base. So that will be where the condemned and his executioners will go up before they put him to death. So I've left it to dry overnight, and there it is so far. The beam is up, the base is on, the ladder is there. Again, in normal circumstances I would have built an actual steps up there to make it a bit more realistic, but to save time to get it on the battlefield, and I had this spare ladder from somewhere, I've used that instead. So it's a bit naughty of me not to do proper steps, but yeah, and cutting corners, but it'll do for me. To be honest, it's not going to be used on a daily basis. Well, let's hope not anyway. And I've put it to the base, and to give it a bit more sturdy feeling to it. Now it does look like it's going to fall apart, because if you look at it, it's not quite right angles even after that, but never mind, it will do. No one's going to notice. I'm going to put some support beams, probably from there to there, there to there, and from there to there, there to there, maybe, or just across, just to give it a bit more support, as they may have done in the west. So I'm going to put this to one side for a moment, and then what I've done is I've found some little pieces of wood, which I'll probably use for the beams, which I'll do a 45-degree angle after measuring it against the gallows. So here's the finished article. I don't want to put anything else on it because it will look too busy, but I think that's plenty, apart from obviously the ropes, but I'm not going to put the ropes on until I've painted the rest. And yeah, so I'll put some kind of planks up to make it more sturdy, and that will do. So the next step will be painting, but I've got to let this dry for a few hours. Okay, so I didn't show you the painting of the balsa gallows, but basically all I did was use a base coat of concrete, which is Vallejo 71131, and then I use, apart from there, kind of wood kit and some wood paints from Vallejo with acrylic, but you know, wood effect. It's 71077 wood, and then 71032, which is a golden brown, I also used an IDF Sand Grey, which is 71141, and the last one 71075, which is a Sand Ivory. Oh, sorry, and also a 71012, which is a dark green. Just don't want too much of the green because it's more sort of like a moss effect, which I don't really want because that's kind of more of an older wood. So that's what I used. Now I put the base coat on with an airbrush of the concrete, which ironically it's supposed to be wood effect, but he actually used concrete. And then I just kind of brushed on lightly with like a dry brush, really, with the other colours to make sure the wood's not uniform, as it wouldn't be. I'm quite happy with it. So it's good enough for my modelling skills, and I'm happy with that. And for the ropes, which I'm going to use for around the necks of the victims or criminals, is this twine that I found in my drawer. God knows what I used it for, maybe other military models or maybe my uniform for my reenactment days. But it's kind of a brown sandy colour, which I think is perfect for rope. Now I've scoured it up to the to an unfortunate guy here, and that doesn't look too bad, that scale. I'm quite happy with that scale. That'll do for me. My only concern with using this twine is, will it hang loose, literally? Will it look heavy for a rope, or will it just bunch up and float in the air, so to speak? So I need to think of a way of maybe making it heavier, possibly weigh it down with like super glue or something, just to make it more weighty. But let's see how it turns out. What's on with this strand of string, which is going to be the rope? I've soaked the ends of the rope string in super glue, and that's nothing for it to stick to. It's just for the ends to not split open, because it is obviously an unraveling the thread otherwise, which I don't want. So it's just to hold the two ends together to stop the string from unraveling. I've made this rope, but yeah, so I've done that, and I've done the opposite side as well, which I've taken from the Good, Bad and the Ugly film. And the idea is that you hang it over the banister, or the bar cross, not banister, sorry, and then you just feed it through, and they are hung. Now, to me, I might have done it too long or too short. We'll find out in a second. Let's give it a go. So I'm going to put that on there. Swing it around. Bit of tweezers to help me. So there's the finished gallows with the ropes on it around the bar of the gallows. I've put a base on of sand, basically put some PVA glue down. Some of it was watered down, and then sprinkled the sand on, and just shook the remainder off, or the excess, and I shall varnish this with a matte varnish just to keep it all in place. Now, there are obviously pros and cons of doing it yourself. On this occasion, you can see from there I've got two different size ropes on there, which is not a good start. But let's go through the pros and cons of making your own homemade gallows, or any building for that matter. So obviously the first pro I've got for it is the fact that it's cost me hardly anything, maybe £4 at the most, and that's only because I had to buy some balsa wood that I ran out of. If you've got spare balsa wood or scraps of wood around, or plastic, you can make this with, for next to nothing. Secondly, something that kind of, it's the sense of achievement as a modeler. It's kind of not normally remarked upon. You just do it, and it's on the war games table for people to play on, or in a model diorama. But yeah, the sense of achievement that you've done something productive is always good. Secondly, or thirdly, I should say, it's your design. You can do a single rope, you can do double rope, treble. You can do like a singular one if you've got a smaller war games table or small diorama, you can do it. And again, you can do it to your own design, and you can use internet to look at all the different designs you can see, or different films that are around with Gallows in. And so it's all down to you, really. On the con side of things, obviously you've got to be patient. I'm not a patient person, so I'll kind of rush this a little bit, and obviously it's going to take you a bit more time than buying it. You still got to remember, you got to order it, and you got to wait for delivery. So the time it's delivered, you could have probably built it yourself. And remember that you only the only time you're losing out on is actually building it, which could take a day or two. You still got to paint one that comes through the post, so for that it's the same. The precision on another con is the precision. Obviously, I'm not patient person, so you really could measure and put precision on it to make sure it's 100% accurate. Like some of these angles aren't definitely 90 degrees or 45 degrees, but on the war games table no one's going to notice it. And obviously the robustness. This is only balsa wood, so it's quite light, prone to damage, I'm guessing, if handled wrong. But it will do the job if it's looked after properly. So yeah, that's my take on it. And with as a pro, with the money I've saved, I can go and buy another set of, I don't know, cavalry or desperados or something with the money I've saved. There are other brands out there selling it, selling Gallows for I don't know, medieval times or westerns. So entirely up to you if you want to go that route. But it's just to save a bit of time and see if I can actually make this model. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And there you go. Let's do a quick glance around.